And right here, for session cookies, we don't even have to, I mean, we can do a couple things at this point. For session cookies, we don't really need an expires. If you don't put an expires tag in there, the cookie will expire when the shopper closes their browser. Lots of times I'll use at least two different cookies. One will be the session cookie, and one will be a long-term remember me sort of cookie. A lot of times when you go on a website, when you log in, you see that option to click something where it says remember me for a year or whatever, or 6 months or something. We're not going to do that right now, so I'm just going to create a session cookie that's active while the user's browser is open. It's also the safest to do. If somebody leaves their computer attended, then this will log them out when the browser's closed. So one thing to point out here on domain, it's best to leave off the host, the subhosts, or the host part of the domain, unless you want to specifically, like if this was a secure.store.com or something like that. If you needed only the secure part to set the cookie, then you would type that here. But if you want all the hosts to be able to set cookies, you just get rid of that. So, and what we need to find here is our domain. And in this case, it's on a local area network. So I'm just going to punch in that IP address. Okay, so value equals
why do you set the text cart equals to cart?
It's kind of just it's something that's, well, if I didn't do that, it's not going to be available to the rest of the page. But I like to do redirects after I set the cookie anyway. But if I didn't do a redirect and I only set the cookie name to cart, anything following on this page would not have access to that value.
Sure.
So, however, I am going to do a redirect to this same page. And introduce another command. Now, at this point, we can assume that the user has just landed on the website because
we don't have a cookie.
Right, we don't have a cookie. So I don't need to try to append any extended parts of this URL. I'm just going to redirect to the same page.
So we should probably quickly explain that that's all a redirect tag does. It redirects to an URL. In this case, we know this guy's a new visitor because he didn't have a cookie. We're going to set a cookie and then redirect him to this page.
Yeah.
So I would probably ask, what happens to a user who's got his cookies disabled?
Well, then you'd have to put in some code to let him know that cookies are required. Now you can pass us, the cart value to each page, but that requires that you manage all the links on your website.
Yeah,
and
it's tedious.
It's tedious, and you always seem to miss one or two. And then,
is there any easy way to test to see if a user has cookies enabled?
Sure, yeah, yeah. You can do that's what you do. I'm not going to do it for this one.
No, but just a quick, just so people are aware that it's possible.
JavaScript's a good way.
You can also probably do a write and read, and if it doesn't come back valid, then we know it's probably disabled.
Yep.
And you could go to that extent. Here, probably we'd put some text on the page that just says, you know, cookies are required to use the site's shopping features.
Yeah, and if I'm going to do a redirect, lots of times I'll add a flag here, just for cases like that, you know, because if the cookie isn't set, then you have the chance of getting into an infinite loop here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put a safety net here, just saying index.dna and set flag equals true. So then
we probably should prefix that set flag with a CTR underscore.
Sure, if you want to.
The only reason we do that is because in case for some reason JavaScript or somewhere else uses set flag as a term.
So then I can actually check for that flag before I even approach this. So I can do a hide if set flag equals true. Oops. Equals T.
So that'll avoid going into this loop, because if the set flag is true, that means you've been in there once already,
Mm-hmm.
and it's still not finding cookies, so we just protect from trying to write a cookie again and again if the guy's got cookies disabled.
I'm not going to go any farther with this, but just to go with your idea of checking for cookies if it's enabled, you could do that here. Like if you know that we try to set a cookie if this variable name equals true, well, you could say something like a show if CTR underscore set flag equals true. Then you could check for that cookie. If it isn't there, you know this user wasn't able to set cookies, and you could offer up some
lecture.
You could offer up some text having them enable cookies, but I'm not going to go quite that far because we need to save hard drive space and get through this tutorial.
We just need some tea.
And we need some tea. So that's a quick down and dirty session, a way to create a session. And again, since I'm putting pretty much most of the tags or the pages, I got all the navigation pages, the results, the search, the home page, all within this one index.dna file. I only need to put that at the top of the page in the main file. I'll probably create separate pages for the checkout process, maybe. You don't need to, but let's say if you wanted to hide your checkout pages from search engines, it's easier to do that if you have separate files. Okay, so let's add something to the cart. So if CTR action equals add to the cart, I'm just so I don't make a mistake, I'm going to grab the add to cart syntax here. Oops. For add line item. See, I would have put add to cart. Okay, so
add line item means add an item to the cart.
Mm-hmm.
You're adding a line item to the order file. That's why it says add line item instead of add to cart.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple required parameters here. Database, and these should say required. I'm going to go back and make sure those say required parameters because they are. And SKU and cart.
It's pretty obvious that would be required. I mean, DB, it has to be getting the product from some database.
Right.
SKU, it has to pick a product. Cart, it has to put the product into a cart.
Right. And those are the only required params. This file is for if your cart does not reside in the standard shopping carts directory, you can put it somewhere else using this file command. A lot of times people will use the globals feature of WebDNA to build sites with, and that would be one way to
Another thing that people do is they'll build an entire site creating all this functionality from scratch, which You really should spend time in the documentation and understand how the shopping carts, the order file, and this entire system works, because it saves you an enormous amount of time.